For many of us, our experience with virtual presentations is that they are virtually ever really any good. We're used to seeing shots of nostrils, a bunch of background noise, people reading slides to you, but it doesn't have to be this way. In fact, there is a hierarchy of virtual events from Tier 0 all the way up to Tier 4. And in this video, we're going to teach you about each one of those tiers and what it takes to pull them off effectively. If you want more about the equipment that we use for each one, go ahead and check the blog post in the comments. And please, whatever you do, let's just stop the zero effort that's out there. This is a Tier 0 webinar. I have my built-in webcam, my built-in microphone. You just have the upward shot. My face isn't fully in screen. I've got clutter in the background. I'm backlit by a couple of lights. Now we are going to share my screen. Here, presentation. Here we go. Tier 0 webinar. And my name is Andrew Tarvin, with Humor That Works. Go to my first slide. And this is where I have a slide full of text that I'm going to read you. I mean, the benefit to me is I don't have to memorize anything and I can just read it to you. The giant disadvantage to you and to the idea of online learning in general is that it's not very exciting, engaging, or effective. If everything I want to say is on the slides, I might as well just sit through the slide deck and then go for a nice walk or grab a milkshake or at least taking a nap. Note, it's also particularly bad if you have a typo in the slide and that forces you to read it all. Here we are for a Tier 1 webinar. The technology is exactly the same as a Tier 0, but the experience is already a little bit different. First of all, I've elevated or raised the camera and my entire laptop by putting them on a stack of books. I've changed my background a little bit. I've cleaned it up a little bit, tried to remove any clutter, and reframed the shot just so that we don't have way too much light or backlight in the frame. Also, other differences that you notice, we tried to keep things relatively quiet. Also, I am now wearing a shirt, at least nicer shirt, button-up shirt. I have showered, I have shaved. I'm going to share my screen as part of a presentation to have already put that presentation into presentation mode. We have Tier 1 webinar. My name is Andrew Tarvin, representing Humor That Works. There is no wall full of text. I'm not reading everything out to you word for word. It's more of a bullet point form. 4x4 guidelines suggest that at most you should have 4 bullet points and ideally roughly 4 to 5 words per bullet point. You might even include a picture, something that metaphorically represents what you're talking about, but in a more engaging way. You can also start to take advantage of things like the chat feature. Encourage people to say, hey, in the chat, share on a scale of 1 to 5, how are you feeling about this type of content? Now this is a Tier 2 virtual experience, getting into the realm of things like virtual workshops. Immediately, you already notice a couple of things that are different. First of all, resolution is higher because I'm using an HD webcam connected via USB. The audio is also stronger because I'm using a USB microphone. I've attached some headphones to it as well so that I don't get any echo or feedback from any of the attendees when they start talking. I've elevated the entire production to the point that I'm now able to stand up, so I'm a little bit more free-flowing in my presentation. My backdrop is a little bit different. I found a spot that's a little bit less distracting and also less of a high traffic area in my apartment. And I've even ironed my shirt. So not only did I put on a nice shirt, I ironed it, but just the front because no one's going to see the back. In addition to that, I've also got better experience with the technology itself. So things like going into slides is a lot more seamless. While sharing my screen, I'm also sharing my video, encouraging people to keep that video visible while also looking at the text, maybe even teaching them how to use side-by-side mode or change the size of the video in comparison to the slides. This is so that instead of just seeing a static image, they're also still seeing someone who is presenting to them. The slides themselves are a little bit more visually compelling, still using bullet points, but also incorporating animation so that the slides build over time and there's not just one static image on the screen. I'm also doing whatever it is that I can to defend against death by PowerPoint. That might include things like incorporating a little bit of humor.
perhaps sharing a funny picture of a sign that you've seen. I'm also taking advantage of some more advanced webinar technology. In addition to encouraging people to use the chat by giving them various prompts, such as on a scale of 1 to 5, or type Y for yes, N for no, or just asking simple questions of like, where are you dialing in from today, I'm also making use of things like polls and breakout rooms. Breakout rooms give you an opportunity to pair people up in groups of 2, 3, 4, or beyond to create a little bit more engagement and an opportunity for networking. All of these things help to create a more engaging experience that isn't just sitting at your desk, waiting for someone to stop talking. This is now a Tier 3 virtual experience. Already you're noticing that it is a little bit visually different than what we've seen before. First of all, it's a wide angle camera shot. You can actually see whether or not I'm wearing pants. Not only am I wearing pants, I'm wearing my iron shirt, a blazer, and a belt. When was the last time you had to put a belt on? In addition to this angle, I also have an up-close, more intimate angle that I can switch to. I've also got slides that I can switch to pretty quickly and easily. Notice that there wasn't any time delayed to share the screen, but rather went right into the slide switched on my side. I can also go into this picture-in-picture view, where you see not only just my slides, but also me while talking about those slides. Slides themselves have a more advanced design. In addition to images, I'm using things like icons as a way to represent the text. I've still got pictures that I'm using, and I might also start to incorporate a little bit of audio as I go along. For example, I'm used to hearing laughter in my presentations, and so I might include something like a laugh track. If I say something hilarious, like a man once asked me if I wanted some free fish, so I asked, "What's the catch?" Actually, probably not a great idea. I would use it way too much. Everything that we're doing from a production standpoint is higher level. So we've got HD cameras connected via HDMI. I've got a hardware switcher switching in between each of those different elements. Audio is done via lapel, so it's just my voice that you hear. I've got headphones in, so I can still hear what's going on in the meeting itself, but they are less obtrusive, more hidden back. And lighting is a little bit better. And all of this is done in a seamless manner where the technology feels like part of the experience. This allows me to still do some interactive things in the chat, to engage people with things like breakout room, polling functionality. All of this is done to create a more engaging experience, something that feels different than a webinar or a workshop. It feels more like a virtual keynote, more like that main stage. It has room for inspiration, engagement, humor. And I'm wearing a belt. Up next is a Tier 4 experience, which is actually something that I can't create. Because that requires a studio. It requires more hands-on equipment. It's something that people like Dan Thurman, Vin Jiang, and Drew Davis are doing incredibly well, where they're seamlessly integrating multiple camera angles from HD cameras, very good audio. They're switching in between different types of scenes, so you can see them juggle or do magic or use a light board. They're also perhaps including pre-produced videos, seamlessly going in and out of a live experience, chatting with the audience into something pre-recorded. And all of this is done at an extremely high level, seamlessly working because they have a virtual producer, on-site producer. They've just done enough rehearsals so that everything works just as you would expect. You don't have to have a Tier 4 to have something that is engaging. It doesn't even necessarily have to be Tier 3 or Tier 2. At a minimum, we can all aspire to Tier 1. We can all raise our computers up a little bit, stop the nostril shots, clear the clutter behind us, and reduce the sound. If you're gonna do workshops, elevate to a Tier 2 experience. Get an HD webcam, use a USB microphone, have some headphones in so that you don't get any feedback, and start to learn the technology so you have a seamless use of the interactive features that comes with it. If you're looking for then that virtual keynote experience, look at Tier 3. Have some HD cameras, maybe a couple of camera angles that you can switch to, and take advantage of some of the advanced features of the tools, things like breakout rooms, whiteboards, polling, interactive chat. And finally, if you got the space, the know-how, the resources, you can create a Tier 4 TV-like produced video for those really big events, for those really crucial moments. for those really compelling stories. Hopefully you've learned something from this. If you're interested in learning more, we have a link to a blog post in the comments that shares more details about each of the tiers, as well as links to some of the equipment that we use to make sure that we can pull them off. If you want to learn more about all of this, not just the production, but also the content and delivery, you can sign up for our Effectiver Virtual Presentations workshop, where you learn all the ins and outs of how to execute this for yourself, for your own meetings, and for your own audience. I think at this point I'm supposed to say, don't forget to subscribe or hit the like button, maybe leave a comment on what you'd like for us to cover as well. But in the meantime, thanks for watching.